Welcome to Ecclesia Principles, a biblical strategy for believers to engage in God's design for government with Ray Eppard.
Hello, good to be with you again today. Today we're going to talk about how the ecclesia is to function in a very basic concept. Matthew 16:18, Jesus is speaking and he says, "And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." The Greek word there is ecclesia. "And the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it." We saw that the word church doesn't come from the word ecclesia. It comes from an entirely different Greek word. Type into your computer etymology of the word church. And if you would, stay away from all the Christian sites. Because if you would, most of the things that we do with that, it's been Christianized. It's been made to fit our doctrine. Go to the ones that are just dealing with the language. And if you deal with the ones that are just dealing with the language, you will find that the meaning of ecclesia, the definition of it is it was the name of the legislative body of the Greek city-states. And that was a reality in the times of Christ. And so that's what he had in mind when he said ecclesia. He didn't have all the things that have been Christianized since. He used a term that people would understand in that day. And so with this, he says that the gates of hell will not function, will not prevail against it. So when we're talking about how the ecclesia functions, if you would, it's to function at the gates. At the gates. If you would, the gates of a community. That's where the leadership of the community meets. And in some cases, there are people that are really representing hell's agenda. But there should be people there representing Jesus' agenda from that standpoint. And they should be involved in leadership roles, not just attending, watching, and fussing. That was not Jesus' design. He said, I will build my ecclesia. In other words, within the leadership of communities, I will have a group in the leadership that will be working toward my agenda. So with that, what we see here is how the ecclesia is to function, is it is to be engaged in civil government for the purpose of cultural change. For the purpose of cultural change. Over the last number of decades, really, if you go back really to probably the early 1900s, 1920s, so forth and so on through there, that is where the church really began to withdraw from the civic arena. And partially, it was wrong on a number of things. It made even some very big mistakes in the early 1900s. And with that, there was just a withdrawal from the civic arena. Well, and since that has happened, the moral fiber, the character, the types of leaders we have in our nation have deteriorated. And I'm not talking about one individual. I'm talking about the basic essence of those across the board. Things have changed. Corruption is acceptable, so forth and so on at every level. We've always had that, but it's much more acceptable today. The church needs to become the ecclesia once again. God bless you. Have a great day.
Was brought to you by Victory Worship Center and World Outreach. Services Sunday 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, 200 Hammond Lane, Stanton, Virginia.